Q helped me draw the line so I can get to point B, which is pivot to product management and land a product management job at a company that I'm interested in that aligns with my values and the career growth that I'm looking for.
So what are some of the challenges that you had before you joined the program?
I was dealing with some toxic work situation stuff over there. And Q helped me think through and coach me through that and let me go so I'm not shackled to the trauma from my past and more like I can reinvent myself going in the future because you're always going to have failures, problems, and
Setback.
trauma in life, but it's about how you navigate and move on to the next stage is what's important. I used to get palpitations looking at job descriptions where they had the word keynote in it because I had to do a lot of keynote presentations in my previous job. And that's something really basic and small, but you need to be able to get through these things to start applying and networking and talking to people. And that comes from working through your own issues with a coach that you trust.
What makes you decide to put down that investment and get coached by me?
To be honest, when I set the call with Q, I wasn't sure if I was going to hire her because I was like, my focus is more on UX. I'm more trying to go into product, like science, domain specific, but she has the industry experience and the seniority to be able to work with different cross-functional domains. So the first thing is obviously like coaching can be a bit on the pricier side, and it depends on how long you've been unemployed or what your finances is. Looking at Maslow's level of hierarchy, being able to sleep in bed with shelter, food, you should obviously pursue coaching if the lower levels of Maslow's hierarchy has been met. Don't do it at the cost of that because you're not going to get value from your coaching because you're going to be worried about your bills. So
It's
that's
a very smart analogy because I literally always tell people like, look, if finance is hard, it depends on like how hard. If coaching puts you literally like sleeping under the bridge, then that's not what we want.
yeah, because then you won't be able to take the advice and apply it in the right mindset mentally and
Exactly.
emotionally. But once you made the financial risk assessment and what the cost is and how you can pay for it, then the second thing I look at is in the grand scheme of things, least amount of money I was making, the amount I've paid in coaching is a relatively small percentage on an annual salary basis, or even if it's a little bigger, if I go to a small company and that doesn't pay me as much as my previous companies did, the ROI over time is still better in the long term with the money I would be making because I would get a job that would pay me my worth because I'm able to see my worth.
So tell me a little bit about when you were looking for career coaches. You mentioned earlier that you've also checked out other programs as well.
I looked at a couple product management coaches and I looked at also Q as well, who has background in UX and product. And Q Styles stood out to me because it's a bit personable and be able to get information from you as a person, drive insights, and build like a plan to help you navigate the job search journey, which stood out for me from the first initial call compared to other coaches who I did screening calls with. And I found that their advice was a bit superficial and that like they can give me positive notes or positive affirmations, but it didn't necessarily click with me on a personal level that which requires the ability to draw insights, gather information from someone, and that requires some degree of social and emotional intelligence. That's what stood out for me from the screening call, and that's what gave me the confidence. And that was illustrated when I was doing one-on-one coaching with her. And we did do some product sense mock interviews, and she built a custom plan for me. Study plan was interviewing for Meta to do product sense and analytical thinking, which is very helpful for me because I tend to overthink. You're able to gather data and insights, and from that, you're able to build upon that and tailor your communication and effectively coach someone. And not everyone has the ability to do a mindset change based on the information you're gathering. You've worked in those places to know and to be able to advise people on how to approach the interviews, the tactical and strategic parts as well.
How has being coached by me has impacted your confidence or mindset?
Yeah, I realized through the coaching and as you called me out that I worked at two things, I didn't even name them, so being honest, is that I sometimes discount my own experience and my own accomplishments, which can be very hindering and can be sabotaging to yourself, especially when you're doing behavioral interviews and they're asking you like, what has been the impact you've driven in your previous company or your previous org or your previous product. And if you discount your own experience, then you can't tell a narrative that highlights your strengths and your experiences and wows the interviewer. And so being able to recognize in myself and seeing other people in the coaching program and then realizing, okay, reframing my HR title to be like actual product work and coming up with narratives to align that. So I'm not second guessing and coming in the area thinking I'm deficient or less. And someone actually had the title is something I had to learn, and I got that through coaching, which eventually over time made me more confident going into interviews.
What would you say to someone who listened to that and say, okay, I hear you. I really need the help. I hear your thoughts around finance, how to think about that. But I don't know. I'm just still on the fence. What did you tell that person?
Okay, obviously you need some element trust and faith. And that if someone says they're going to do something, they're going to. Then in my case, I did notice that. Connected me with someone with your network as well, who was from Airbnb because was working at a nonprofit as a product manager to host community-based housing. And then I was like, oh, Airbnb makes sense. So I connected with someone who also pivoted from another domain to product. She was from UX. So they understand the pain of pivoting and how it works internally. And then she recommended that I talk to someone else who then I got introduced to from Microsoft, although the referral didn't end up working out. But they looked at my background and I still ended up making connections and discussions and learned something new. Although in hindsight, when I think about how this coaching process took a really long time than I expected, but at the same time, it needed to happen. It needed to take this long for me to self-actualize and go to the next step. For my career growth, I believe it was helpful, and I would still leverage you in some capacity when I'm in my next stage in my role.
So thinking back, how was the experience for you? Is it something that you think, okay, yeah, if I go back in time, I would do it exactly like this again? Or no, I would have gone to that other approach. What's been the experience for you when you think back?
I think coaching is a big investment. This business had come into vision and been surfaced in the past couple of years post-pandemic and pandemic where there's more fluidity in how people are coached. And so I do think it can be life altering if you find a good match. So when you're going and coaching, one thing to ask yourself and be clear is why am I seeking coaching and how will it help me? And going in and asking the coach these questions as well. Because I think sometimes some people can think coaching can solve the problems in themselves and quickly, like a magic wand, get you from point A to point B. But you need some clarity in yourself that why you're seeking that. And be careful when you do it because there's a lot of stuff on LinkedIn popping up and making an educated, informed decision. I think personally for me, comparing with different coaches with screening calls and see which one resonated with me based on the situation helped me make my decision and inform me better on why coaching with you made more sense. I think coming in, being clear on your goals or having an idea of what you want to achieve, if it's not crystal clear and Q can help you formulate those and to get you to the next level